This video is going to show you how to do a project with Gimp photo manipulation, and I'm going to make a wallpaper. Here's a wallpaper I'm currently had. I didn't really like the overall outcome of it, so I'm going to make a new one. Opening up Gimp. For those of you who know how to use Gimp programs, then you should be able to start right with me here. And I'm going to open a couple of different photographs, open them as layers. And the first one is going to be the background, which is the this one here. These images, the links to where you can find them are in the description below. The next one I'm going to open as a layer. Well, I'm going to go ahead and leave the RGB the same on that, and then I'm going to go File, Open Layers, and open the second one, which is the Orion Belt. Okay, and I'm going to use it to create my creatures out of. And as you can see, there's a huge difference in sizes on these two different files. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and make it where I can work with the images both at the same time, back and forth on them. So the star field is so big, I'm going to go back to the 9% of view, and I'm going to do next is select my tool for scale. Make sure I have the Orion Belt to the top one selected, and I'm just going to drag these corners and scale this thing up to make it big enough that I can actually do something with it. As you can see, let's get it bigger here so I have stuff to work with. All I'm going to do is use pieces of this photo to make my creatures out of that are going to be flying through space. And get it here. Okay, and I've completely covered up the other image, which is fine for now. Most of this image I'm going to erase away and use it, like I said, to go ahead and scale that now that I've got it big enough there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this image, and like I said, I'm going to use my eraser tool here in a second and erase away pieces of the image that I don't want, leaving just the creatures behind. And this takes a couple of minutes here to scale. Once it's scaled, it only shows the portion that's on top of the background underneath it. There it is. And I'm going to turn the view back on and off. This looks alright, kind of where it's at. And next thing I'm going to do is choose my eraser tool. And I want a hard brush instead of a fuzzy brush. It automatically gives you a fuzzy down there, so I'm going to select the brushes and get a hard brush. And because we blew up this image so large, the eraser brush at 20 is extremely small. So I'm going to keep increasing the size of my brush that I'm going to use to where I can at least, you know, use something to actually that I can see what I'm doing. Okay, now I'm just using the eraser. I'm clicking on the left click as I drag it around and using it as a drawing tool basically, and just drawing around the outline of what I want to make as a creature. Not really being too careful with this as far as straight edges or anything like that, because I kind of want it to have a blob look to it. I don't want it to have a uniform look in the first place. I'm going to make 3 of these creatures that are all kind of pointed off in the same direction, generally as if they were traveling together and going basically from the bottom left of the screen to the upper right of the screen. So get another one made here. Let go of the mouse, left click again to start another erasing piece here. And if you mess these up, you can just let off the eraser and then go back up to edit and then undo, and you can undo one layer, one thing that you've done at a time, and each time you do that it'll take you back a step, and then you can start over whatever you messed up on and fix it. Now I'm just kind of using this small one to clean up the spaces in between them, because if I get a big brush I won't be able to do this. So make sure I have plenty of smallness on the brush head there, so I can actually do this right next to these images. And now that that's done, and I'm pretty satisfied with those. I'll go ahead and increase the brush size dramatically so I can go ahead and erase off the rest of this photo that I'm not going to use. You can see the background where I erased that behind is a star field from the background image that I had selected and opened as layers with, which is exactly what we want. We want this on top of the other. So now I've got a big enough eraser I can actually do something with. Go around these edges again carefully so I don't mess them up. Again, if you do mess it up, it's not that big a deal. And I'm going all the way up to that other outline because I know that that image goes all the way up to there. So I'm going to try to get rid of as much of this all at one time as I can. This is going to take a minute here to do. And just keep cleaning it up. Going around all the way to that edge. And I know I probably missed some here and there. Can move real fast over here in these areas where I'm not near my creatures. I'm not going to mess them up. Okay, I got to be careful around the edges there. I don't want to bump into one of my creatures and mess it up. And now I'm just letting go of it and then set over that spot and then click it one time. That way I just get rid of just what's underneath the circle there, and I don't wind up damaging or messing up the image I want to keep. Get rid of some more here. Okay, that pretty well cleaned that up fairly nicely. I'm going around the edges again just to try to make sure I didn't miss any of that image on the edges. Hopefully I'm erasing anything that might have been left behind that's not currently visible. And that looks pretty clean now. So I'm going to move this dot into where I have those oriented like I want them, and then click on rotate. And it'll take it a few seconds here to make the actual rotation. Okay, now that I've got them rotated like I want them for applying my effects, I want them a little bit larger so I can actually see better what I'm doing to them. So I've put that up to 25%, and I'm going to go under my effects, enhance, and I'm going to sharpen them first. So I selected on sharpen, and I got to find them on this screen here. This preview screen is such a small amount of what's on the screen. Move over to about halfway and come down. Oops, not far enough over. There it is. Basically what I'm trying to do with the sharpen tool is make sure the edges are real sharp. And they look pretty sharp already, but I'm going to go ahead and bump that up a little bit. The edges on the stars that you see, those white stars, would be nice if they would sharpen up a little bit too. So I'm going to go ahead and let that run. Took just a second there to do that. And next I'm going to go ahead and go back to filter and enhance, or actually distorts, and go down to the bottom, which is for wind distortion. And that's the effect I'm going to use to give me my motion look to these creatures. And let me find them here on the preview screen again. There we go. And you'll see with the settings right now, the stars are blurred the wrong direction. I want them going the other way, obviously, so I'm going to change it to right for direction. And I don't like the effect, it's not strong enough, so I'm going to lower the threshold, which makes it more of an effect on it, and then increase the strength, which will also make it more of an effect. Kind of like the way that looks. I think that'll probably be okay. The front edge is clean, the back edges should be blurred. If it wasn't right, I could switch that by changing the edge affected, but it looks like it's right for this already. So I'll go ahead and approve that or okay it, and that'll give me my wind distortion to it. Now I see on the screen here, I'm going to turn off the background, and I can see some more pink stuff here that I missed. So I'm going to get my eraser and go ahead and clean up a little bit more here that I missed that spot. Missed a spot up here. And let's see, in between the bottom two, the eraser's too big, so let me lower the size of my brush. So it'll fit in between those two, just small enough. Okay, I'll click on that, clean that up. That looks pretty clean. So that looks okay. Kind of like the way it all looks there. Go back to the 9% view. Looks fine as far as I can tell. The next step I want is to rotate the creatures back so that they are pointing kind of from the left to right, from left to right, you know, from the left bottom screen to the right upper screen. So rotate them back some here, get the angle that I like, click on rotate, and this will take a little bit of time. I went ahead and cut some of it out so you didn't sit here and wait on it to do it. So they're rotated now, but I still think I want them to be larger on the frame there against the background. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my scale tool again and make sure I have the top layer selected. And it's already so large I can't even grab any handles to move it with anymore. And increasing the size of the view is going to make it even worse. So the only option I have is to make sure that the width and height are chained together, so that if I change one, I change both at the same amount, so they maintain their aspect ratio. And then click on that upper on width there, and they're actually both changing at the same time, and you'll see it begin to migrate. It doesn't actually increase the size, it just shows a new bottom edge position of it basically. So I'm going to go ahead and move these up pretty big. That's a pretty dramatic amount of change there. And click on scale. And they moved down there and they're much larger, and I think that's fine. I think that's going to look good. The last thing I want to do is go to my selection tool, select a square around it just inside. I want to bump off all the edge stuff and get rid of any unnecessary stuff there, and go down to crop to selection. And that way I don't have any extraneous stuff outside those edges. Go ahead and select none, so my selection goes away. And at this point I'm pretty much ready. I could go ahead and merge visible layers and make it just one image, but I don't want to do that on here. I want to save this project as is in case I want to make changes to it later. If I merge them, then I would have to unmerge and all that. So I'll just go ahead and leave them as separate layers and go over here, and I'm going to save the project and give it a save as, so I can give it a name. I put Wallpaper 4. I hadn't done that yet at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and do it now so I don't lose my work. Save it, and then it's ready at this point. I don't have anything else to do to it, so I'm going to go ahead and export. But while I export it, it's got the same name, which is fine. It's already in a PNG file format, which is fine. I could change that down at the bottom left if I wanted to, but I don't. So I'm going to click on export. I'm going to leave the settings as what the defaults already are, and just go ahead and click export. I'm going to leave it all like it is. The location that it's going to, you show it in bottom left hand of the screen there. You can see where you can find your image once it's complete. It's under a folder that I was already using, which is where the other photos were, which is fine. Okay, and that finished. So everything looks good here. I'm going to minimize my Gimp screen, and where I want to use this is wallpaper on my laptop here. So I'm just going to right click and go to personalize, and then I'm going to browse to find that photo, and I can see there's the last one. It says Wallpaper 4. Choose it. You'll see it update the screen behind there. I like the way it looks just like it is, so I'm going to go ahead and close that out, and that'll be my new screen for my laptop screen. And that's easy enough. That's how you make them. It's a wallpaper job. Didn't take very long at all. Hope you enjoy.